Hello, everyone. Professor Kuzluk here. So, as we hear a lot about the Israel-Iran conflict and this debate over will America become more involved, and the focus is on will Donald Trump get the United States more involved. One thing that isn't being covered as much or talked about as much is what would fill that vacuum if the regime in Tehran was toppled. So we've encountered several elected officials on both sides of the political aisle here in the US. And political analysts and political pundits say it would be a good thing if Iran's leadership was toppled. And you hear discussion about it's a great time to bring democracy to Iran. And maybe that is true. Maybe it is the ideal time to bring democracy to Iran. But lost in this discussion and lost in this debate is what would happen post the current leadership in Tehran. So, as we saw in Afghanistan, as we saw in Iraq, nation building is difficult. Toppling the regime is much easier to do than building a new regime with institutions. And this might seem obvious, but this discussion seems to be lacking in the debate. And we have to keep in mind, Iran is not an ally of the United States. They sponsor terrorism. They are, the regime is hostile to the West, hostile to Israel, hostile to the United States. But this idea that there would be a smooth transition from the regime that exists today into democracy, the political science literature, and the empirical evidence makes it kind of abundantly clear that that is a difficult task to achieve, to build institutions, to build democratic institutions in a country from the outside. And so, of course, we want a world safe for democracy, and we want more democracies in the world. But this idea that of how difficult it is to build democracies from the outside is kind of being, in my opinion, not discussed enough in the media, in think tanks in Washington, D.C., about, okay, if you toppled the regime in Iran, how would those next steps look like? What would they look like? How do you get to a democratic state? Okay, just something I was thinking about here on a Friday. Thank you.